Why do we keep pushing things till the last moment? Why do so many of us have a problem with procrastination? The answer might be surprising. It's because you're good at what you do. Yes, your brain, when it understands that there's something that you routinely do, or something that you've done before, or something that you've achieved a certain level of competence, automatically starts putting it into a time frame where it says, can I do this on autopilot? So the moment you have a similar kind of task, the brain says, hey, I've done this before. You know what? It only requires only this much time. So I don't have to put my work on it right away. I can put it on a later time. More often than not, this gets pushed on till the deadline's so close that many times you end up doing subpar work or even missing the deadline. And that's how procrastination works. So, how do you get rid of procrastination? How do you stop the habit of pushing things till the last moment? Here are 4 steps that can help you achieve this breakthrough. Step number 1. The key to breaking procrastination is to start immediately. Yes, spend 3 minutes starting the task that you're thinking about pushing away to a later moment. And how this works is once the brain starts off on a task, then it cannot rest till it gets that job done. According to the Zeigarnik effect, the brain will keep on badgering you till a task that is started gets completed. It's like your brain's own reminder system. So what are we going to do to make that happen? We start the task spending 3 minutes doing something about the task so that it gets started off. And once you start 3 minutes, spend a couple of more minutes, spend a little time moving on that task. So now you've got something that your brain cannot say no to completing. But what about stuff that we don't feel like starting? Well, that's where the second step comes in handy. What you need to do is break your work into chunkable items. You see, many times we procrastinate stuff because we think, you know what, there's a lot of stuff to go in one sitting. This is too much. I might not be able to finish it. Let me do it later on. But by breaking it into chunks that can be doable, you're automatically making the brain get rid of the excuse of saying this is too much work. So break your task into doable chunks so it's easy for you to handle it right away, to start off immediately. But what about, some of the times we feel, you know what, I still don't think I can do it. What you need to do is start with the most interesting chunk that you would like to do. So let's say you have a report to submit and you've broken down into, I have to find the first part, I have to do the design, I have to do the content, I have to do the delivery, I have to do the order. And let's say you like designing. You say, well, I'm going to design the outline, design how the look and feel of it is going to happen, and so start off on the project. So step number 1 is to start off immediately, and step number 2 is chunking it up. Now, the second reason, apart from we're good at the stuff that we do that helps us procrastinate, is the fear of the task itself. Many of us feel we might not be able to do a great job. We might think that we might not be able to achieve that level of performance that we want to achieve while doing that task. Or more, we're simply scared of the outcome. And that's the reason many people push stuff till the last moment where they inevitably have to do it without attacking it as it comes on their plate. So, how do you break the fear that makes us procrastinate? Well, you use the 5+5 rule. Spend 5 minutes ideating on how you can accomplish this process. Now you're looking at the methods in which you can do it, what are the different resources you're going to tap. You're going to ideate so it's easier for you to plan this task. It's easier to think about chunking. It's easier to remove the blame that comes from saying, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough resources, etc. So this 5 minutes spent ideating how to do it will actually clarify and help you get started on that task. And after the 5-minute ideation, you spend 5 minutes prototyping. You've thought about what the design would look like, spend 5 minutes quickly creating that design. You've thought about what the content should be, spend 5 minutes quickly writing the outlines of that content. You have an idea of what should be the meeting's focus, spend 5 minutes on the prototype, creating a skeleton of what all should be included in that meeting. Whatever task it is, by following the 5-minute ideation with a 5-minute prototype, you now have complete control over what should be the end result, thereby helping you overcome the fear component of procrastination. And once you've done that, how do you hold yourself accountable? Well, you use the tripwire rule. That's step number 4. Step number 4 is using tripwires to ensure that you're on track with your chunks that you have broken down. So how do you use a tripwire? You give yourself a deadline. It could be a trigger like an email, an alarm that goes off, a colleague who checks in with you at a given point of your progress. So let's say you say, I want 25% of my work done in the next 7 hours. So at 7 hours, you set up this tripwire that you know that you can measure up and see have you achieved your goal or not. By setting these tripwires, you're actually having more control over the process, also telling your brain that the task that you do is going to be doable, it's easier, and because it's in these chunks, you can finish it. And because you have these tripwires set along the deadline, you know that you're actually accomplishing the task on hand. So those are the 4 steps to beat procrastination. Quickly, number 1, start immediately. Spend 3 minutes doing the task so that your brain knows that it has to finish it. Step number 2, chunk up your task into doable pieces of work where you can easily start working on the component. And what do you use there? Start with the stuff that you love to do the most in that whole component, the whole chunk, so that you have one more barrier removed away from getting started immediately. Step number 3, overcoming the fear component of procrastination. Spend the 5+5 rule, 5 minutes ideating on how you're going to accomplish the task that is laid out before you. Spend 5 minutes prototyping those ideas so that you know how to proceed as you go about with those chunks. And finally, setting the tripwires makes you clear about the time frames in which you need to accomplish each chunk, and also making sure that you don't waste time doing other stuff that you're supposed to be focusing on the time to do this stuff at hand. So there you go, the keys to beating procrastination.